Thank you all for joining, those that are attending live and for those that are watching this back on a recording. My name is Luke and I'll be covering today's courseware admin training session, your back to school webinar. Also joining me on this call today is my colleague Natasha as well. Generally, some of you will know and notice my face. Some of you on the school will be more familiar with Natasha. Best rule of thumb is if anyone is based sort of within the Middle East and Africa, you'll most likely be more aware of Natasha. And for anywhere else, rest of the world, this will be me sort of looking after. So if you do have any questions following this webinar itself, please do contact us. I'll make sure our contact details are listed a little bit later as well. So what we'll be covering today, we'll be going through a general sort of overview of courseware itself and sort of what you need to do and the steps you need to do ready for back to school. I'll also be talking about those best practices for implementation. So I'll be going through how you can best utilize the platform within your settings. Again, I really highly advise if you have any questions, please go and use the question and answer section of the Zoom call itself, and I'll definitely get around as much as I can to them. Though if anything is very specific to your school's account, please do bear in mind that might be sensitive and we'll get back to you afterwards. And naturally, I'll list on any closing remarks. So when it comes into more courseware specific, this is what I will be covering today. As mentioned at the start, this will be more or most applicable for administrators because we're looking at how you can refresh your ahead of back to school. We'll be looking at rostering, all of the settings and the new updates to do with the administration center, how you can set up and manage your courses within the platform, how you can set these up. There's even some new updates in regards to even the settings that you can do within each section of a course. And where possible, I will try to add in best practice and how I see other schools using courseware. And then for those teachers on the accounts, again, most of this will be for administrators, but for teachers that are watching, again, I'll try to highlight where some of the new updates has best supported yourselves in using courseware for the upcoming year, as well as, again, looking at best practice and highlighting my active tasks specifically. Okay, so without further ado, I will go into the platform straight away. So let me quickly go into my demonstration account that I'll be using for today's webinar. Thank you all those that are saying hello also in the chat. I can see that on the other screen as well. Okay, so before you do anything, and also this could be applicable, if you also have ExactPath in conjunction with courseware, I would highly recommend you doing this first step with courseware first before you do and update your roster list within the platform itself. That being is, if you are an administrator and you're coming onto your main dashboard, which I'm sharing the equivalent in my demonstration account, and you go to manage courses, it's highly important that you make sure this is up to date, because what you would like to see moving forward is that your active sections are those courses that you want to use for the foreseeable future. If there are any courses or sections which you do not no longer need or is not applicable anymore, or simply the students have just finished that course and they do not want to complete it again, then simply it's best to sort of deactivate it or complete the sections. So I'll go through that very shortly. Now, this is just a very small snapshot example of what you might be seeing in your account. For example, you may be coming across an active section where you may have a warning symbol on this. If you hover over the warning symbol, it will explain why, whether this is due to retire very shortly, whether it's due to retire at the end of the upcoming academic year, or again, if there is any other reason for a warning sign, please do hover over it and it will give you more explanation. In this case, this environmental science course that you see here, this is due to retire at the end, at the end of this upcoming academic year on the 8th of July. We can also see here the start and end dates. So this was started on the 1st of January and this was due to end on the 31st of July, so a few weeks ago at the time of recording. Now, we can see no students have spent any time on this task here, so you might lead to conclusion of this is no longer being used and may not be applicable for this academic year. Therefore, if you want to remove it from your active sections, then simply tick the section itself, this box on the left-hand side, and you'll see on the pop-up, which has just come up there, you can deactivate this section, and that will just tidy it up. You will not lose any data, even if there was some. It will simply be moved from active sections to the inactive sections tab. If you're on sort of the mindset of no, you would still like your students to complete it, even if it's for the first semester of the upcoming academic year, then naturally you may need to change your dates that you see here at the bottom. To do this, simply click on the three dots next to the section in question and go to section settings. And in here is where you'll be able to make your changes, whether you want to date or adjust your dates here. And if you need to adjust any of your instructors that will be applicable for this course, you can add them in, as well as some settings, some of which are completely new, and I will come on to this during our summer updates. But for the purpose of this particular section, if you did need to adjust your dates and instructors, this is where you would do so, and you would click Save Changes in the bottom left. So that's just one example. You might have another example in one of your courses where you have had some work been done and completed inside the course. You can see students have been enrolled, and we can actually still see that the end date for this particular course has still got a few more weeks left to go. So some of those particular scenarios I showed you before may not be applicable for this particular one here. Now, maybe you want to get some more information. Where has this 2 hours come from? Have my students completed this particular course? To do this and to get some more information, you can do this in a variety in different ways. I will show you of this webinar. The first way is actually click into the section itself. So this Class 6A Math 6 Semester B course. I can click into the course itself. And then at this particular point, it will let me know which of my students that have been enrolled onto the course and where that time has come from. Now, in this particular example, you'll see that this particular student has completed work. We see they've completed 22 out of 28 activities, but you'll see most importantly for administrators and for teachers, there are 6 tasks. The symbol here, which is of a clock, you'll see in the top right, suggests that there are some items that teachers and or administrators will need to mark pieces of work in order for this to show in the activities. Therefore, what I'm saying in this particular bottom example here with Dylan is that actually Dylan has completed all of the course, but are waiting for the teacher or the administrator to mark 6 pieces of work in order to contribute and complete all 28 activities of this course. If you're wondering how you need to mark this piece of work, then simply click on that where it says 6 tasks, and you'll receive a pop-up where you'll be able to score those activities. Naturally, once you have done this, this will then be applicable with our grading system that you can see here. In this way, if you're happy and you're like, yes, I want to complete Dylan, I want to say, yes, Charlotte might still be completing because we've still got a few weeks left to go of the course to complete, but I know Dylan has finished in this example. I can just select Dylan. And again, we have a pop-up and we can see here, complete student. So if you do have any students that you know that has completed the course, but you may want to leave, say, the course and the section open, this is where you can individually complete students whilst the course and section is still live and active. If you wanted to make any particular changes to Charlotte, because there's a few weeks left to go, again, you can select the box next to Charlotte's name and we can edit start and end dates and so forth. The other way that I was going to quickly show you in regards to if you want to award credits or complete a student is via the gradebook. So again, going back to the previous screen on your managed courses within your administrator dashboard, click on your open gradebook button next to the section in question. And from here is where you'll be able to award any credits. So if this is applicable for anything like this, you'll be able to do so. Simply, in this case, click on the 3 dots next to Dylan's name and you'll be able to do so, but you would need to complete the student first in order to award the credit. So essentially this first step, if we're talking different steps to updating your account, I would highly advise checking what courses you have live currently or those that are still active. Make sure you deactivate any courses or complete students or award credits where applicable. So you're going into the new academic year where you've got your list of managed courses and it's all up to date. This is going to really help with reporting leading into the new academic year. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is then we can then look at rostering itself. Now, for those that also have exact path, this will be very similar to what you are familiar with when it comes into updating your users, whether this is one at a time or through batch processing, which I'll go through very shortly. But I wanted to preference and say, if you've already completed this step within your exact path subscription, you will not need to complete this again. So how do you update your roster list if you just have Courseware watching this? So at this particular point, go to the administration center right on your very top banner. So this is step 2. And from here, you're going to go to users and manage. At this particular point, you'll see all of the users that you have inside your account. So we can see here in the bottom right, overall, including staff, there are 46 users in this account. Though, again, if you wanted to filter using just seeing learners, just seeing teachers or administrators, you can do so using these filters. If you want to upload or change or update your roster list for everyone, staff included as well as students, then you can do this all at once. My recommendation is on this screen, go to the largest items per page, scroll back to the very top and click on the top left-hand box. Then from here, you can click on export, which will then download what you can see on screen now into a Microsoft file. It's a CSV file more specifically. So see this here. Let me bring this onto this screen so you can see. So here, you'll be able to see everything that was on that Manage Users tab. And if you wanted to make any changes at all, this is where you would do so at this particular point. So, for example, if you have a user that is no longer at your school and no longer needs to use Courseware, then you can go into where it says status, and where it says active, so these are all of our current active users, simply write the words inactive instead, like I've just done for Eva. I'll just zoom in a little. So for any of those that are sharing screens, you can see this a bit better. You can see under column G, I've wrote the word inactive if this student is. You can do this the same for teachers as well and administrators. If you need to upgrade grade levels and you want more of a quicker way to do this, again, this is just my best practice in terms of recommendation. Hover over your very first row, go over to sort and filter, which you'll typically find in Excel in the top right-hand corner, and go to filter. And I would recommend going over to column H, which is grade, and going from smallest to largest. From here, you'll then be able to, again, select your desired grade and you can move them up simply by, again, doing this and dragging into the appropriate cells. For any new users that you want to add in, you do not have to create this separately in a separate spreadsheet. You can simply use the same headings at the top and simply fill in the relevant fields below. So first name, last name, username. For students, you definitely will need to include a password. For staff, I would recommend a generic password, though staff will be able to change their password at a later point. Obviously, their role type, active, grade level, and so forth. So for any new users that you want to add in, simply follow the same structure and pattern. Once you're happy with your Microsoft Excel file and think, yep, this is all looking great, this is who I want in the platform for the upcoming academic year, then simply resave this as a CSV file. So please do not change it to another file type. Please keep this as a CSV one, and then back into the administration center where you were previously. You're going to go now to users and batch processing, the second option down when it comes to this particular point. Here, you'll then see an upload tab, and this is where you'll import and attach that file. As soon as you've imported this in the history tab, it will let you know whether you've done this correctly or not. If you have any problems at all, please contact either myself or Natasha, whichever is applicable for your school, and we'll do our best to get back to you. Okay. So I'll pause for a second. So those are the first two steps: updating your managed courses, ensuring they're all correct and live heading into the new year. And your second step is ensuring your rostering is correct and how it needs to be. As a pausing point, again, if there are any questions as we go through this webinar, please use the question and answer section. Again, more than happy to answer any of these towards the end of the webinar. Okay. Now, before I actually go through the other steps within the platform, there are definitely a lot more settings, part of our summer updates and our back to school updates that you may not be familiar with. So if you're relatively new to being an administrator within your Courseware account, or simply you've not accessed the administration center for a couple of weeks or months, then I would highly recommend going through our different settings, which will all be applicable for Courseware. Generally, my sort of first rule of thumb, I would say go into the settings area, and then here you'll have a variety in different settings options. Some of you may have seen these particular fields before. If so, please ignore me. But for those that have not been into these particular areas, this can really help personalize what you would like when it comes into your school's Courseware account. Whether it's allowing students to see their current grades, for example, whether you would like instructors to be able to create some of these sections or not, whether to allow custom course builder controls, ensuring you're aligned to the right time zone. And more specific to, say, Courseware, you may want to look at, say, access control, test security, where this more comes into terms of the randomization and auto-locking. I know there's been some recent questions to me personally regarding this. Again, you'll find this inside this particular field here, and then other areas. We'll not have time to go through each individual particular area, but I would highly recommend, if this is an area you've not been in recently, I would highly recommend going into each individual element to really customize yours, your teachers, and your students' experience of the plan. Now we're going to go back into Courseware itself now. So once you've completed updating your sort of courses, you've updated your roster list, you can then go ahead and start looking at potentially what new courses you want to set up and new sections as well for students to complete. So to do this, and again, you may be familiar with this already, click on the menu in the top left. Then at this particular point, you can either select Course Catalog or Custom Course Builder, depending on your needs and what you would like to give to your students. If I'll go to Course Catalog, just for the purpose of this, Again, you may see some new updates or at least some new labelings next to particular courses. This will all be different depending on the libraries you have subscribed to as a school. So please do bear that in mind. If you're seeing some of the courses here that are not applicable for your school, that might be because of the licenses you have subscribed to. So if you're interested in looking at expanding your libraries, please do, again, get in touch with the Edmentum team and we'll definitely get back to you in regards to that. So for anything new labeled, this is a complete new course offering. Generally, we'll also have the labeled new as well when it comes into any new versions of a particular course. So for example, although it doesn't say it's here, maybe version 1 has expired. Maybe this expired or retired at the end of last academic year. So now we have the new versions 2.0. So for those more long-term subscribers of Courseware, you may definitely probably be familiar with this, but just to, again, as a reminder, instead of repeating the same course again, we may have a new version of this, obviously, which is more aligned to curriculum state standards. So again, even if you're the most experienced within Courseware, do check out our course catalogue, as you'll see the most up-to-date courses found within here. So for the purpose of this, let me go and select, we'll go for computer programming for the purpose of this. If I want to set up this particular course for my students, I will click on New Section, and this is where you can see some of our new updates, which I'll cover in more detail in the presentation slightly. For example, you'll see below, we now have what is called a mastery test threshold. This is where you can set in these settings here about what the minimum percentage students must earn to achieve module mastery. Then we also have an additional setting when it comes into retakes as well. So this is where you can set the numbers of times students can unlock mastery tests by completing the tutorial. So again, if you want students to retake these, specifically obviously with our Edmentum or Plato courses, then obviously you can do so within here. Course progression settings. So this is where you can set it as open or sequential completion. Now, the difference between the two is, and this could be really sort of game changing for some of the schools watching this, if you leave it open, this will make sure that all content is available for the students unless you have locked this on an individual level. However, if you want to make sure that it's sequential completion, as in students can only complete what is next up until the next computer scored activity. So essentially we are pre-locking the courses or the content for the student in order, then you can do so here within these settings. So this is part of our back to school summer update. So if this is of interest, then again, I'd highly recommend looking at this, and then you can self-enroll or continue to students as usual. But I just wanted to show this particular element before going in and explaining this in more detail within the presentation. So let me do that now. Let me pause my screen and I'll go through our summer updates. So let me go into here. Okay, so what are you, or what should you expect, as well as that very brief look that you've seen in there? So this is kind of our roadmap. You'll see here for our back to school 2025, what's in, specifically with courseware and courses within our career library, and more specifically, and then our courseware alone at the bottom. So at the top is more curriculum based. So for those schools watching this live or on recording, if you're aligned to a certain state standard within the US, then again, we've updated a lot of the core curriculum subjects within here. Also, this will be applicable for the national one as well, and Common Core. You'll see on the far right-hand side, we are also looking at, again, getting more and more courses. For example, a computer science update for our AP library and a full year PE or physical education course as well. So that's what you can expect to get already on the roadmap already. We will be naturally adding to this as well. Again, you can see sort of the career curricular updates. So when it comes into sort of AI, nutrition, and so forth, these are all being updated, ready for back to school. And then at the bottom is what I'll generally focus on in today's webinar. Very appreciative of your time. So we'll look at the translation and text-to-speech updates, mastery learning, new and improved reporting areas as well. Again, if you've not logged into Courseware over the last, say, month or so, you may not be aware that we've had an overhaul of our reporting system, and I'll definitely come on to that as well. So definitely very exciting, lots of updates just in the back to school element, and already we've got some updates listed ready throughout the academic year as well. So as mentioned, again, we're getting updates onto new courses, making sure that we've got extending our 1 semester PE option, which we already have, into a full year option. And again, ensuring that that computer science AP course is aligned to the College Board's announced updates. So let me talk more about sort of the multilingual support. This would be very applicable for obviously our international schools. So we now have updated our translation options and our text-to-speech options. So slightly different in terms of what this looks like for the both of them. So translation will create a more native, intuitive experience. And this is now across 75 languages, where in the past, I believe it was around sort of 20 to 25 translations that we had previously, or language. Now we're at 75. I'll show you that list very shortly. This will extend to assessment as well as interactive elements, pop-ups and glossary terms. So it's not just the lesson, for example, it's not just some of the wordings or certain slides that would be applicable. The actual capability of our translation options actually extends to even our most sort of interactive elements as well. Settings will persist page to page without further selections. And with our text-to-speech function, was just previously English. So prior to this update, we only had English as a text-to-speech option. This has now gone into 25 different languages with native voices and improved voice quality as well. And again, there is customizations on speed and voice help as well. So let me show you what that list looks like. So from here, again, knowing our development team, they are always looking at improving this and adding to this as well. So even if your language is not on screen here at the moment, or the text-to-speech enabled is not on screen at the moment, which you'll see with an asterisk next to the applicable one. Again, please do send us your feedback. We'll definitely pass that on to our developers for consideration of a future update. Now, I spoke about sort of that mastery threshold. There's one way to do it as you're adding a particular section, as I showed you. This is also a setting in the administration center, one of those areas I did not go into previously. So you can access this in both variations. If you do this in the administration center, this will be applicable for all of your courses as and what you have selected. Naturally, if you make the changes just in that section alone, it will only be applicable for that section. So please do bear that in mind. If you want this to be more of an account-wide sort of setting, do this in the administration center. If you want it just on an ad hoc course-by-course basis, then do it as I was showing you previously once you've found your desired course. Now, your mastery levels, you can customize this from even 1 to 100%. So again, meeting potentially your school's needs and what they will need in order to progress. And this will naturally show up no matter what you have customized this number to. When it comes into looking how a student has performed, this will still show up as the same yellow mastery star once they've achieved your benchmark. So this is really powerful, especially if you wanted to, again, make this very uniform and align toward your school's needs. So that's an update within our mastery threshold. Sequential completion, again, already gone through this, but this is, I suppose, an example of what a student would see if you do select this as an option. So they will see the content, but naturally they cannot access it. They would need to complete the prior steps. So in this case, the discussion on this expressions piece of content before these will start to open up. So again, if you like to do this, you found that within the section settings, instead of open, select sequential, and you'll be able to do it through here. Mastery learning. So this is when it comes into sort of the overall course itself. So where you said about the 70%, so we're looking at here. If students do not achieve 70% or higher, and you have allowed unlimited retries, you'll see this is coming up in this month. So in a few sort of days' time, this will be applicable inside here. But you'll see this is the notification in what students will see. So at the bottom, if students are not achieving 70% or higher, because this is what the threshold was inside this particular account, so we can see here 22 was how the student achieved and scored, you'll see that the student does need to achieve 70% or higher to then go into the post-test. So because you may have left unlimited retries on, they can go back on, and as soon as they've hit that 70% on that unit activity specifically, but in all areas, then the post-test will come up. So again, just giving you an idea of this is what students will see should you want to use some of these settings. Also, in theory, you could use both. So if you do decide to change the mastery limit, so to 70%, and you want to do sequential completion, this is also what it would look like as well. So again, they would need to complete it in order, but they would then need to achieve that certain benchmark that you have in order to get to any post-test or final end of semester tests as well. So again, if you really want to make it that customizable experience where students are completing maybe one piece of content at a time, then definitely we're adding lots of new and exciting updates in relation to this. Then when it comes into reporting, I gave a quick sort of explanation before. We've had a massive overview. If you remember correctly, when you've accessed the menu in the top left, we had a separate classic report section and a general report section. You'll be pleased to know we now just have reports. So everything is all updated, merged. We have lots of guides within our learn and support area where you can see what information is in what report. But you do not need to worry about, oh, do I need to go classic reports? Do I just go to the general reports? It's just going to be a unified core reporting area that you'll now see in that menu section in the top left. Again, all of these are modernized. I'll show you in future slides how it's changed from the legacy version to what this is now. And new for the school year 25-26, you will get that end-to-end enrollment visibility. So you can access a complete data story on learners that have passed through any sections at all. So especially for those that are watching this, that has lots and lots of students using Courseware, that visibility can be really vital. So this will be new for this academic year. So again, just kind of showing you what this now looks like in terms of, again, that unified look. If you are wanting to download a quick PDF or exporting a detailed CSV file data, again, this is all under one particular sort of area as well. So you do not have to sort of guess where this is at all. And there's a lot more settings as well when it comes to our reports, which I'll come on to now. And you can even change it with date ranges, enrollment statuses. So even if you have made any users inactive at all, you will be able to pull certain reports as well. As I know, this was a big area of at least some of the schools that I've worked with. Can they still generate reports? You definitely still can. So let me go through what some of this looks like. So Administration Center, this has then been relocated into our account management. So you might see this as a new tab right at the very top. For any users watching this that has a integration of some description or an LTI, this is obviously found within the account management section itself. Also any data syncs or anything like that. Settings, using our SSOs. Again, this is all within our account management system. So if you cannot find this within the Administration Center because of the updates that we have, a lot of what you're seeing on screen now is now found within a new tab, which I'll show you right at the very end. And this is underneath Account Management. And then going back to what now the reporting, you may be very familiar to what it looks like on the left-hand side, where we had about 13 different reports, maybe even sharing the same information. We've now condensed this, unified this, and all found within the reporting feature. So this is much more focused, There's less of your guesswork, and it's all going to be modernized in how this looks. So we've definitely had an overview and a glow up when it comes to our reporting system. Then when it comes into, oh, I accidentally went through, just wanted the last point on that end-to-end enrollment visibility. Some people were asking me prior to this particular webinar itself. They knew it obviously included certain elements, but what are we adding options for within this visibility option? You can see here again, just to reiterate what I was saying before, you can view all students, whether they are completed or dropped, whether they have switched programs or been fully withdrawn. And again, you'll be able to see even deactivated sections. So going back to that very first point that I was making, it's very important you make your sort of managed sections, your active sections and your deactivated sections all clean, ready to go for the new academic year. You're not going to be deleting any data at all. You will be able to run reports similar to this to extract any information. So let me quickly pause before I open up to any last questions. So I suppose this is sort of your last point. If there are any questions at all, please do put them in the chat. So this is kind of your last warning before we do finish for today's webinar itself. I just wanted to quickly highlight before we open up and speak to Natasha to see if there are any questions at all. Regarding, let me go back into the account. I was on about that account management. You'll see this is next to the administration center on the top black banner that you will see here. And then one last thing before I want to go, and I had it on my agenda. It's vitally important if you are fully aware that students have not completed or you've not marked students' pieces of work in order for them to complete a course. If you are a teacher watching this, please go to your menu section in the top left, and you'll see underneath instructors, my active tasks. Now, if you are even an administrator, but you are linked as an instructor to that course, if there is anything that you need to mark from a student's point of view, whether this is a discussion or whether this is a written piece of work, then you will find this underneath my active tasks. If you click here and it says what I have now on screen, you do not need to worry. You do not need to mark a piece of work. But if you do see something here, it's vitally important you mark this in order so administrators can complete that student and award credits and do what is necessary. Okay. That's me in terms of for this initial section. Natasha, is there any questions at all that you've seen in the question and answers that you want to
There's a couple of questions. Yeah, a couple of questions. I have answered a few as well. So one of them is it was in regards to the updates for like the mastery. Where will I find teacher resources such as guided reading to go alongside intervention?
Good question. So yes, definitely two different ways where you can do this. First protocol before I show you the main area. When you are looking at courses, so whether you have the course already set up and the section set up, you will see any particular, say, syllabuses and notes when it comes into a course itself. So if I did this accounting one, for example, here that I'm showing on screen, you'll see any important steps from a student and a staff point of view listed at the top. So syllabus may include particular fields that you see here, and depending on the course, there may be some also guided notes listed at the top. But the main area, and especially again, if you're not familiar in using this, is using our help center in the very top right-hand corner. From here, if you click on this, we have a variety in different resources, not just our back to school update. So if you did want to learn more, you'll see this at the very top, but we have our learn and support area, which I'll get onto shortly, our educator resources, where you'll be able to see, again, a lot of our new particular areas. And even if you wanted a quick link here, you can find it in learn and support. But within here, as Natasha, if you're looking at finding guided notes, then in this particular area, you'll be able to, again, see where you'll be able to do this in this regard. So again, it will let you know exactly what I was looking at just there, how you can find it through the course catalog, or again, we can give you some guides and finding this through our help center as well. So yes, if you are looking for any particular pieces of support, whether it's how to mark a piece of work, guided notes, appropriate reading, Generally, you'll find this all within the syllabuses, within that course catalogue when you are assigning this. If not, if you're wanting to find it in a different way, you will be able to find it within our learn and support area, as you can see here, even with the blurb, you'll be able to find answer keys, guided notes, and everything else in between. So definitely, if you have not accessed our learn and support area before, please do so. Lots of different information here. And again, if you have any follow-up questions following this webinar, please do get in touch with myself and Natasha. Hopefully that's answered that one. Natasha, any others at all?
Just one final one, a little bit more bespoke. As we know, Courseware and ExactPath all sit within one platform, so the ELF platform. How do I ensure the elementary students that access ExactPath are not added into Courseware?
Very good question. So two different ways if you did want to double check this, but theoretically, courseware is only for those in grades 6 to 12. So this is why we have different interfaces for those that are familiar with ExactPath, where in grades 6 to 12, they'll be able to see both their ExactPath content as well as their separate courseware content itself. So when it comes into when you're setting up a particular section itself, you may see all students at this point. So if you go to the administration center right at the very top and go into where it says programs, this will give you the best idea in who is enrolled into ExactPath and who is enrolled into courseware. This will be the same for teachers. I know on some recent questions, I know some of our schools have been very proactive and started to update their rosters already. A typical question is sometimes all they see is potentially this Edmentum Sensei. They don't see anything else and just Edmentum Sensei. If that is the case, similar for students, it might be that the teachers or administrators are not enrolled into that particular section, whether this is courseware or ExactPath. So if we more focus onto courseware itself, especially when it comes to instructors and program administrators, this is where you can enroll your users at this particular point. So if there are any that are eligible users, you will be able to select it here. For the students itself, again, when it comes to the courseware itself, again, courseware is only for grades 6 to 12. So please do bear that in mind when it comes into learner enrollment and obviously assigning courses from this particular point. So this will be applicable to the grade levels that you are updating your roster list with.
Fabulous. And that's it. That's all the questions.
Perfect. And thank you for also answering those as well. I think the question answers are not sort of open, so I do appreciate you asking that when you are going through. So I don't see any other comments or question answers outside of those that you've just covered there. So I just wanted to say again, thank you so much. I will just put our sort of closing remarks here on itself. If you do have any sort of questions, let me reshare my screen now. Those are our contact details on screen that you're seeing now. So again, for those that schools are based in the Middle East and Africa, most likely Natasha will be your main contact. So her contact details are below her name there. For any rest of the world as such, that's my email address underneath my face as well. Do get in touch if you have any follow-up questions at all or any particular staff training needs that you may want. Again, anything we can support your back to school, do get in touch. But for now, I hope this has been very helpful. Thank you all very much for those that have attended live or watching this back in the future. And we look forward to working with your schools for the upcoming academic year. Thank you all for watching.